Hi, in this lesson, we're going to take a look at CSS. So previously, you saw how you can use styling in your HTML tags to do things like change color, change font size, etc. You may have discovered that styling every tag is often a little inefficient, and if you had a much larger page, you could end up having to style hundreds or even thousands of tags. So part of the reason for this is that HTML was never intended to be used to style a page. Instead, HTML was designed to define the content of the page. To help define the style, you use CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's the language used to design or style a website. The CSS syntax looks similar to some of the HTML styling, but using CSS offers many more efficiencies. At a high level, the HTML page defines the content of the page. The result is a relatively basic layout. You can then put CSS styling on top of that. This will give your page the look and feel that you want. By simply changing the style in the CSS, the look and feel of the page gets updated. CSS is great for developing the look and feel of the page. You can use it for things such as defining colors, fonts, spacing, alignment, size, and more. Best of all, it's easy to standardize across the entire page. So writing CSS code is about writing CSS rules. The whole thing you see is a CSS rule. Let's break this down a little bit to better understand how to write one of these CSS rules. The first part of the rule is the CSS selector. The selector defines which HTML element the rule applies to. For example, this rule will apply to all H1 tags on the page. Next, you have curly braces. And then inside those braces, there are one or more CSS declarations. Notice that the declaration looks very similar to the HTML styling. Many of the same keywords are shared between HTML styling and CSS styling. Each rule follows the format of property value with a colon separating the two and a semicolon at the end. The property is which feature you want to style, and the value is the style that you're applying. In this example, all H1 tags will have the font size of 60 pixels and a color of red. As mentioned before, properties are the same as what we have seen in HTML styling. So you have things like color and background color, and many of the others that you previously used will also work in CSS. So where do you put CSS code? Well, you put CSS code inside of a style tag, and that style tag goes into the head of the HTML file. But what if you don't want to style all H1 tags to be red, just most of them? Well, the great thing about CSS is that it can be overridden. If you define a CSS rule so that all H1 tags are red, then absent any other instructions, your browser will make the H1 tag red. You can, however, override the color with a new style. In this case, the middle tag will now be black. But this updated style only applies to that one specific tag. The next tag goes back to the CSS rule for H1 tags, which is a color of red. Alright, let's take a look at this in the editor. Okay, so let's take a look at our CSS styling. So now notice that we've put the CSS styling inside of a style tag inside of the head of our program. Now it's nice because we can have all these different p tags, we have 3 of them, and they all get the same style to it. But if I wanted to change this style and say make all these yellow, I change it in one spot and all of my p tags update. That's not a very good color though, so let's go back to blue. Okay, and now again I can change different things. I can define them at the body level, I can define it at the H1 level, and I can define at the paragraph level. Now what if I don't want all my H1 tags to be the same? Well, let's say I want to override this tag with a style. And so I'm going to override this tag with the style that says, let's make it a little bit smaller. Instead of the 50 pixels, we're going to make it 40. Let's color it red. And now I'm going to introduce a new definition, the text align to center. And so again, when I run that and update that, I see how that applies everything there. And so it took this 50 and it overrode it to 40 and took the color, which the color was actually coming from the body color of the navy, and so it took that and applied that to red here. And so again, CSS allows us to define things up top that get applied through every place in our page. So go ahead and play around with this.